Children should have pens in their hands, not tools, by Iqbal Masi. Distinguished panel, good morning. Surprisingly, the presence of working students goes unrecognized, if not ignored. With this, a thesis entitled Hard Work and Academic Success, Their Relationship to Self-Motivation and Academic Wheat was crafted. The simple fact that child work exists actually creates a pathway for potential child abuse, exploitation, and other offenses related to the practice of child work. Children are more vulnerable than adults to work-related health risk due to their specific physical and maturational characteristics and lack of experience, that is according to Bhutan and Juven 2022. It can be argued that child labor only covers those children below 15 years old. However, a student's education, regardless of age, should remain the topmost priority and must never be compromised. Also, a 16-year-old physique nor cognition does not guarantee a workplace free from hazardous work. A 16-year-old shoemaker may not know that the glue he uses contains benzene or that it can lead to leukemia and death by age 30 by the International Labour Organization. It is with this notion that the researcher deemed it necessary to revisit and conduct further study on the participation of learners in work irrespective of its nature, and had identified hard work as one of the variables in this research paper that the researcher operationally considered tantamount to the commercialized term child labor. It is significant to highlight that no research on hard work and its impact on students' academic progress had been done at the Iligan City National School of Fisheries. Consequently, the cases of learners no longer actively participating in school because of child work had been noted. An example is a grade 8 male learner who had no choice but to give up his studies and continue working in a construction site as a construction worker. Thus, the researcher aimed to create an intervention program that will neutralize, if not completely eradicate, the problem. This research study would help throw light on that subject. The findings of this study will enable initiatives on the part of the educational sector to minimize, if not completely eliminate, the hard work that certain pupils have to endure. Keeping our students in school and engaged in their studies is the only way to guarantee growth in the neighborhood and the nation as a whole. The primary motivation for seeking employment is to support the family, but it is never acceptable to include children and jeopardize their bright future. With this, the researcher investigated the links between learners' academic success, hard work, self-motivation, and academic weed. The researcher also developed an intervention program to give aid to the pressing issue using the findings of this investigation. The relationship between the variables under inquiry is depicted in Figure 1, the schematic research diagram. The diagram showed how hard work influenced self-motivation, academic wheat, and academic success. To determine if such influence existed, the researcher first categorized the degree of work experienced by the learners. After which, further statistical analysis were done to determine if such a relationship existed among variables under study. For the methodology, in order to comprehensively and accurately characterize the social issue, this study employed a multiple research design. These included descriptive research design, correlational, and causal comparative research design. These designs were utilized to ensure that appropriate statistical treatment, analysis, and interpretation was conducted on the course of this research study. Additionally, these designs allowed for thorough explanation and analysis of the variables of interest. Utilizing an adapted and modified survey questions, the researcher compiled quantitative data to assess hard work, self-motivation, and academic weed. Further, with the use of descriptive correlational research design, it allowed the researcher to describe the characteristics of the responses using the measures of central tendencies and measures of variability, as well as the association between the variables under study. This study took place in Iligan City National School of Fisheries, where there are now 1,597 students. 816 of that are male and 781 are female. 400 students from the senior high school department make up the entire total population of 1,597, with a total male students of 210 and 190 for the female. The grade 11 students from the senior high school department of the Iligan City National School of Fisheries school year 2022-2023 were the respondents to this survey. To maintain statistical consistency and accurate population representation, all grade 11 students were invited to participate, and only those who gave their consent were allowed to take part in this study and become its respondents, thus arriving at a total sample size of 165. 61 are male and 104 are female. Since the target respondents are minor, a letter of consent was provided by the researcher, following the ethical procedures in conducting a research paper. Further, Iligan City National School of Fisheries was the chosen school by the researcher to get the pool of respondents in this research study. Consecutively, purposive sampling was then utilized in this research study. Only those who agreed to be part of this research by signing the assent form were identified as the respondents of this research. Table E showed the reliability of the research instruments. All instruments yielded a result of alpha greater than 0.70, which implied that all test questionnaires were reliable and ensured internal consistency. For the results, Table 1.2 showed the work category of the learners involved in hard work, which revealed that most of the learners engaged in hard work were classified as hard work. This constituted 67.9% of the learners involved in household chores. It can be noted that there were learners who also engaged in other types of work as reflected on the table. This implied that although majority of the learners were doing light work, some are actually engaged either in hazardous work or both hazardous and light work, which should not be ignored. Child labor, which is considered hazardous, is work that is performed by children in dangerous and unhealthy condition by the International Labour Organization. This means that the work is unsafe by nature and inappropriate for children under 18 years old, regardless of the conditions or the safety equipment. Table 2.4 showed the result of the degree of work in child labor as experienced by the respondents, which revealed that a low exposure of the degree of work among the respondents involved in child work. However, the physical hazard category had the highest mean rating score, while academic hazard had the lowest. It can be noted as well that there were respondents experiencing high to constant exposure of hazards in child labor, as reflected in the maximum mean rating scores. These learners, due to extended work hours, often face physical exhaustion from labor-intensive tasks. Such prolonged periods of work leave them with limited time to rest and recuperate. This implies further that learners involved in extended work hours, especially in labor-intensive tasks, were at a heightened risk of physical exhaustion, compromising their essential rest and recovery time. This pattern suggests that prolonged work commitments may detrimentally impact the overall well-being and development of young individuals. Gleaned from Table 4.5, the level of self-motivation of the learners, wherein the results showed that of the four elements of self-motivation, initiative obtained the highest mean, 4.10, while both personal drive and optimism were the lowest elements, 3.73. The self-motivation of the learners were generally high. This means that the learners who showed high initiative tend to act readily to accomplish the task. It should be noted, however, that across all elements of self-motivation, their qualitative interpretation were the same, which explains why learners are engaged in work and at the same time pursuing their studies. These findings is also supported by a study conducted by Abinoha and others, which discovered that one of the reasons why students were working and at the same time studying was because of self-development. The students wanted to improve themselves, the quality of life they have, and gain experiences that they could possibly use in the future. Table 5.2 showed the level of academic weight of the respondents, wherein the results indicated that a significant majority of the respondents, that is 90.9%, had academic weight ranging from moderate to very high. This implied that only a few of them, that is 9.1%, had lower level of academic weight ranging from low to very low. Hence, the overall mean indicated that a high level of academic weight among the learner respondents involved in hard work. These results highlighted the desire among learners engaged in hard work to strive academically, despite the degree of work they experienced. Table 9 showed the relationship between the degree of work, self-motivation, and academic weight. The results were not significant, which means that the learner's exposure to hard work with a p-value of 2.53 greater than alpha, self-motivation p-value 0.654 greater than alpha, and academic weight with a p-value of 0.107 greater than alpha were not statistically correlated. While the direction of the correlation might suggest potential relationships as shown on the pattern revealed on the table, they are not statistically significant in this data set. This means that there is no statistical basis for its relationship. Congruently, the researcher is firm that the direction of the correlation suggests potential relationship. However, due to factor confounding variables, this relationship was not statistically supported. On the basis of these findings, along with its results, these conclusions were drawn. First, that hard work does exist in a form of light work as experienced by the learners of Iligan City National School of Fisheries. Second, exposure to hard work does pose a hazard, although based on the results, they were of low exposure. However, if left unchecked and unmitigated, it could prove detrimental to the safety and security of the learners. Third, although the variables in their study turned out to have no association, the direction of its relationship suggests a potential relationship. After thorough analysis of the data, the researcher would like to cite the following recommendations for those who would like to pursue this study. First, immediate attention and evaluation of the following variables should be done: academic success, degree of work, self-motivation, and academic weight. Second, a second phase study should be done on the organizational climate covering the greater percentage of the population. Third, the instrument should have the same rating scales across each group to determine the correlation across the responses of each variable under study. Fourth, a considerable amount of time should be allotted for the dissemination as well as the retrieval of the survey questionnaires to increase turnout rate. And lastly, same study be conducted with additional variables such as anxiety and adjustment level in coping up with the demands of schoolwork and work at home. The next slide showed the intervention program crafted by the researcher entitled Adapt a Learner and Mental Health Program. The objectives are the following. First, to strengthen the academic foundations of the learners. Second, to assess the degree of work of the learners by answering the questionnaire on hard work as used in this study. Third, to promote mental health among learners by conducting a focus group discussion or FGD. And fourth, to promote peer tutoring, instill and propagate the Filipino value, bayanihan. These are some of the references used by the researcher in the conduct of this study. Again, this has been Ryan Michael D. Togonon. Thank you for listening and good day.